with this, we are getting to the next section, and it's really my privilege, my honor to introduce my next speaker, the guest of honor for today. Her name is Miss Alix Schwartz. She's a medical social worker by training and practice, and a leadership and organizational culture expert and mental health activist, which, in general is very important. We have always focused on psychology, psychotherapy and psychology, but in this day and age of COVID-19, this is actually even more important. And she really fights to promote positive mental health and well-being. So a real advocate of overall wellness. She's a graduate of USC School of Social Work. She combines her training in social work and positive psychology to act as a patient advocate. And she's a great one. She's actually a member of the Circle of CORE that I had mentioned, the Patient Support and Advocacy Group, and supporting patients and their families. So we should never forget the families. And you'll hear her story a bit more when she goes into her parents as well. Her approach is holistic, evidence-based, and grounded in past experience, including her own mental and physical health journey with cystic kidney disease. She's currently a patient at the Core Kidney Program at UCLA, and her passion is to better the lives of others by whatever she can do, and she has done so much. And she has actually written a book, a children's book, A Bright House. And if you don't have it, please go and buy it. I think it's on Amazon. I have a copy of that, signed by Alix herself. So Alix is inspired by her own journey to spread the message of the need for patient care through education, research, advocacy, and hope. So Alix, it's a real pleasure and honor and privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Much, much appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody. My name is Alix Schwartz. I'm so excited to be here today. I've always imagined this day happening, but I never imagined it actually happening. I get to stand in front of or amongst the most influential people that have created and made a huge impact in my life. And that's really important to me, and I'll go into that in a couple of minutes. But part of being a patient in the CORE program and just going through the hardships and the challenges of this disease, what it is, what it looks like, how it feels, we always have to remember the support system that stands behind us. So I'm not in this alone. My doctors are in this with me, but the most important other factor that's in this with me is my family. So today, I wanted to start off by just saying how grateful I am to be here with all of you guys, amongst the most influential doctors that have impacted my life incredibly, as well as my parents. This morning, I get to introduce my parents, Annie and Robert, and I get to share the stage with them. So I wanted to invite them up to kind of start the journey for you guys, where it all started, when it happened, and then we'll finish off with how it's going and how we've kind of maneuvered through it.
Well, that was great, Alix. I think that one of the things that is so impactful for all of us is being able to be here listening to all of you today. I have never been around so many doctors really in this whole journey with Alix that have such a dedication for finding what this disease is, and there are so many aspects of it. It's almost like, it's obviously I don't understand any of it, but I know you're all doing a really good job. So I'm very grateful for that. The story with Alix starts when I actually got pregnant, and we had a pretty great pregnancy. I was thrilled because my first one, it seemed, was very, very long, and when I got pregnant with Alix, everything seemed really fine. And my doctor had me come in for an ultrasound. This was 30 years ago. And I was excited for this ultrasound because I thought, wow, it's really innovative and we're gonna see this baby, and I'm so excited. And the doctor that I was seeing is still my doctor, and he's amazing. His name is Dr. Don Nishiguchi. And I was so thrilled that he had this equipment in his office. So I just had to go to his office, and he started to conduct the ultrasound. Robert was there. And as he was doing it, he was showing us all the different things about Alix, and we really couldn't see that much. But somehow or another, he was able to see on her little kidneys that there was something going on. And at that point, the day and the conversation got a little bit more serious. And he said, I'm sure everything's going to be fine, but I want to do a little bit more investigation. And he told us for me to kind of, take it easy. We only had about 2.5, 3 months to go. And we were going to go down to Cedars to have some testing done. And so that all seemed fine. And, we went along. And then the day came that I had Alix. It was a C-section. So I got to have my nails and hair and toes done. And I was very happy about that. And we went in and, scheduled, and everything went as planned. And what I didn't know was what was happening behind the scenes is what Robert will explain.
Well, our doctor, actually, I didn't know that he had a nephrologist that was kind of in the shadows, that we had no idea was hanging around the hospital for Alix to come out so the nephrologist can see Alix right away. And when my wife was under all those lovely drugs that made her all happy, and the doctor came to us, Alix came out, we waited a while, then this nephrologist came out and said, this is rough, guys. The nephrologist said, please don't get attached to your daughter. She might not have a year to live. And my mom was with me at that time. And my mom said, that's unacceptable. And my mom is a retired administrator at USC. And she started going through her contacts of so many years through the USC. And she just got on the phone. She was on the phone all day long. And at that point, that led us to a USC doctor at Children's Hospital. And from that point, I'll let my wife, take the story. But before I say that, I gotta, I don't have much to say except this is really a family. When you find out your child has something, it doesn't stop right there. It's a day-to-day living with this that my daughter's an overachiever. She's beautiful. She's smart. And, she lived the life of we all want to live, and to find out, when does it end? How does it work? And we had all these questions that no doctors have ever been able to give us solid answers on until actually, and I want to thank Natera, because we found out our answers 30 years after we didn't understand this whole thing. Through the genetic testing, we found out what she actually has, which to me doesn't stop anything, but it gives me as the dad, as a parent, peace of mind to know that we have a starting point, and now we know how to go from that starting point forward for whatever we have to do for her life. So this genetic testing is big, so I want to thank him for that.
Well, and we want to thank Dr. Rastogi and the Kidney Core Program for veering us in that direction to be able to go that extra step. And I know Alix will go into that later. What happened next really quickly is that four days after I had my C-section, we had an appointment at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles with the head nephrologist. And I remember Robert and I wheeling Alix in her little, crib, whatever. And we were going through Children's Hospital, and we were just thanking God that all she had was a kidney disease, because we saw incredible things there. But the good news was that this nephrologist was amazing. She had been there for many years. And she took a look at Alix and she said, my goodness, Alix is a very healthy child. She looks amazing. She said, you know what? Don't watch TV. Don't go on the internet, whatever that was. Don't go searching out information. She said, one of the things I like to do is I just like to look at my patients, and these are the things I look for. So I'm going to give you a list of stuff to look for. And if she's growing and she's doing well, you're in good shape. And she said, and I don't know exactly what this is, but we're going to do a biopsy when she's 7 months old. So we came back to Children's Hospital when she was 7 months old. She was growing normally. Nothing was wrong. And she had a biopsy. She did very well. We were home the next day almost. And we got the results that she had a glomerular cystic kidney disease. The doctor told us that it was very rare. She had only seen it in her practice 4 times. She said that, and I asked the question, what can I do for a preventative? What can I do to slow the progression? What can I do as a parent with her food and whatever? And she said, there's nothing really to do. Just watch her growth and development, look for certain signs. You'll know when she goes into renal failure, and at that point we'll do our job. So all along the journey with Alix, every year we would go in for blood work and urine and blood work and urine and then ultrasounds. And, you know, we didn't see a huge progression in terms of what the doctors were telling us. And they never asked to do any other kind of testing. They were satisfied with the ultrasound. They were satisfied with the blood and urine. And so we just sort of went along with it. We didn't feel like we were in any kind of danger. And so she was living a very healthy life. She was playing soccer. She was the captain of the cheerleading team, and, you know, leading a very healthy life, eating the way she wanted, drinking the way she wanted. And of course, then got into, you know, college and moved to Santa Barbara. And at that point, you know, we were sort of not involved in that much more in her health. And it seemed as if things were going along well. And so I just also want to reiterate in this story, that, you know, Robert and I were blessed because we have really good health insurance. We felt like we were doing everything we could possibly do to make sure Alix was as healthy and happy as she could possibly be. There was never any indication that something was coming because, you know, the doctor had...
We always knew it was coming, though.
We knew something was coming, but we just didn't know when it was coming. And so as long as she was healthy and happy and there were no real changes, you know, we seemed fine. And it's also, you kind of get in this relaxed mode of health care, right? Where, you know, nothing's going wrong. The blood work seems okay. No one says anything. And you're sort of going through going, well, you know, who knows? Maybe she's going to be okay. Maybe this is all good. So anyway, then you went off to college. And I'll just leave it there.
That's our story.
That's our story.
I feel incredibly overwhelmed. I didn't anticipate as many tears in the very beginning as we had, but I think it really sheds light on how powerful this has been for us. And, you know, in the beginning of all of this, I was living an incredibly healthy life. My journey was so fun. I was able to travel the world, and I was a gymnast, and I was captain of the cheer team. And life was fun. It was easy. And then I went off to college, and everything was fine. I ended up slipping into a dark place. I met a woman on an airplane, and she changed my life forever. That very next day, I ended up signing up for this program, which was the Positive Psychology Certification Program. And why do I bring this up? I'll share in a couple of minutes. That program changed my life. So I didn't have any of this information regarding my disease at that time. I was just in a hard place. I hit rock bottom, and I needed a little bit of hope to get me to the next chapter. The Positive Psychology Program lent me the tools that today I'm able to use that help promote and push positivity and hope to others that are in need. So that'll be important in a couple of minutes, but I'll never forget, feels like yesterday. I was starting my graduate program at USC at the School of Social Work in 2016. And I felt a little tickle in my throat when finals were coming along my very first semester. And I had never endured what it was like to have finals in a graduate program. Well, at that moment, I endured it, and I was like, I got to hit the doctor. So I went home to my family practitioner, and out of nowhere, he was like, have you seen a nephrologist? And I said, no, I haven't seen my nephrologist. Actually, I don't remember the last time I saw my nephrologist. And he's like, well, you should probably go see your nephrologist. And I said, okay, is there a problem? Is there something that I need to be? Because I'm just here because I just have a tickle. And he said, well, you're in 3rd stage CKD. And I said, what does that mean? And he's like, well, you should probably go see your nephrologist. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I left there bawling. I ran to my dad's office. I said, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I was just given this information. What do we do with it? How do we move forward? Where should I go? And initially, we both thought, well, you're at USC, so you have a nice segue. I was on their insurance at the time. And so it was an automatic into Keck School of Medicine. So I found a doctor at USC and I started the process. And could you imagine, right? You've lived, at that point, I was 26 years old. You've lived 26 years of bliss. Nothing's been wrong. You've stayed, on top of getting your urine test and your blood test and all the things that the doctors want you to get, right? And mind you, it starts with this much and then it goes to this much, what the doctors want. So 26 years later, I'm getting all of these weird things happening to me. And as I'm sharing them with the doctors, this specific doctor was like, okay, well, we need to take you off the supplement and you should be good. Let's see if you feel a difference. And I said, okay, well, do I need to get a nutritionist? I was the one asking the questions. I found out in that very moment that nobody else was going to be an advocate for me. I had to be an advocate for myself. I had to step into the position of uncertainty and fear to make sure that I had all the questions answered so that I could make the next move and the right move in that matter. So I wasn't getting the answers that I needed from this specific doctor. And every time I went in, it just felt odd. I would walk in, it had to be on a specific day, had to be at a specific time, and within 20 minutes, you were out the door. I didn't go off and see another doctor. I didn't get an opportunity to even wonder if there was another doctor out there to see or to speak to. And it was at that point that I was like, this isn't gonna work for me. I had to make that decision because nobody else was gonna make it for me. I was unhappy, I was unmotivated, I wasn't disciplined around this genetic disease or this disease at the time. And I didn't know where to go from there. So again, imagine your whole life, you're living in this uncertainty. Never really was a big deal. Now it's a massive deal. Okay, I'm only in 3rd stage. How long does it take to progress to 4th stage? What happens after 4th stage? I mean, I'm a perfectionist, I'm an overachiever. You could imagine the type of things that were going through my mind. It was a lot, and it was extremely overwhelming. It was just as overwhelming as sitting in this room this morning and pacing back and forth, listening to all these incredible doctors share about the most fascinating cases. And I'm sitting in the back asking my brain is just wiring off all of these crazy questions. Well, what if this happens to me? What's going to happen? Who do I need to speak to? Oh my gosh, is this going to be me in 5 years? Is it in my family? Is it in their genes? I don't know. We still don't have those answers. Anyways, it's a lot. And my mom ends up coming home one day and lets me know that she has a good friend that she plays tennis with. And it just so happens to be a patient of Dr. Rastogi's. And she was like, I'm just gonna try and, share your name and what you have. And I said, perfect, whatever you need, share anything you want, doesn't matter. And at the time, you guys, I was in a really dark place. I couldn't find a doctor that was useful or helpful to me. I was trying to maneuver through all of these obstacles. I didn't know if I was supposed to be eating certain things, if I was supposed to drop certain foods, not be drinking. So I said, anybody, I was putting out into the universe, anybody come in and help me because I'm really eager. I'm really eager to jump both feet in and really take this on because I knew that nobody else was going to make that happen except for me. I wanted to make sure I was ready to walk into that fire and say, it's not me that's going to fail my body is going to fail me. And it just so happened that a miracle came into the palm of my lap when this woman came back to my mom and said, you should just email Dr. Rastogi's team and let's see what we can do. And I said, okay, I'll email. It didn't take 1 email. It didn't take 2 emails. It took nearly 6 emails to get in contact with his team to then find out that the day the world went into quarantine, was the day I got in to see Dr. Rastogi. And that tears me up a lot because, you know, at that point, it had been 29 years of trying to figure all of this out and just feeling alone. Not trying to put the pressure on my family, even though they're my support system, but I'm an adult. I can make these decisions. I should know. I should know what to do. I should know what's right. And when I had my first conversation with Dr. Rastogi, one of my biggest fears was really around the pandemic and how COVID-19 could affect me and, you know, what did I need to do? And the first thing that he told me was, don't let this pandemic come between you and living your best life. And I took that and I soared with it. And so why did I bring up the whole positive psychology movement? The tools that I learned in that program helped me maneuver through the hardships and obstacles and the challenge of what this disease is, what it was, the questions of it, feeling alone, being uncertain in specific areas. I'm so grateful for my experience in the positive psychology world because I wouldn't be who I am without that. But on the other hand, I'm so even more grateful for Dr. Rastogi and his team and the team that's here today, because the second thing that he said to me, and the only thing that any doctor has ever said to me is, you know, maybe we should just get you a genetic test. And I mean, I think I can say for all three of us, we were like, what's a genetic test? And he was like, I have this great doctor. Her name is Dr. Bianca Russell, and she's here, and she knows how I feel, and I get emotional because it's like, man, it took 29 years for one doctor to look at me and say, let's just take a genetic test. It could be as simple as that. However, there's a big chance that it's going to come up unknown, that we're not going to know what it is. And I said, well, I'm willing to take the risk. Oh man, remember the day? I think I overheard yesterday at dinner, and Bianca was like, the day that we found out, I picked up the phone and called Dr. Rastogi and was like, I found it. It came up. And that day that we found out, you know, you could imagine living 29 years with a cystic disease to then finding out that you have HNF1 beta, which is a genetic disease that was spoken about briefly today. And to me, again, the overwhelmingness of being here and hearing about all of that has made me question so much more. But in light of that, I can kind of break it down for you from a patient standpoint and point of view. What ends up happening with this one genetic disease, at least the way that I kind of put it together in my head, is there's all these things that fall under it. Things like being predisposed to diabetes, kidney cystic disease, gout, you know, all these areas that I had never thought about, but yet were happening to me. So I had a random flare-up. We thought it was something else, ended up being a gout flare-up. I was really, you know, I would feel really lethargic and tired at times, and my blood sugar would get really low. Could have potentially been, you know, a feeling around being pre-diabetic. All of these things started answering questions that I've lived with a long time. The uncertainties became more certain. I started finding understanding and the value behind why this was happening and what types of questions I should be asking to doctors so that it could make more of an impact long-term for me. So with all of that knowledge, I went back to Dr. Rastogi and I said, okay, so we have the answer. This is the HNF1 beta, great. Now, here's the other things, the bigger questions that I have. What about pregnancy and having a child? And what about being pre-diabetic? How is that going to affect me long term? And I started saying, Dr. Rastogi, I need to see all of these doctors. I know we're in a pandemic, but I need to see them now. And within a week, he got me on the phone. Everyone's office was calling me. And mind you guys, we were on pure lockdown. There wasn't anybody going into the hospitals. And yeah, within actually, I think it was 48 hours, I had my first phone call. And that was from Dr. Bianca Russell. And then after that, it was for the doctor endocrinologist. And then after that, it was the high risk OB. And then after that, and for the first time in 29 years, as a patient, I felt seen. I felt heard. I felt a part of the answer, trying to find the answer. And for the first time, I felt, like I had shared just a couple minutes ago, that all these people are investing so much time into me that it was my job to invest that time into myself too. And so what came from this? At that point, I decided to go 100% vegan, which has been a nightmare, if I could be really honest with you. It's been a nightmare, but it's been the most incredible experience. I always tell people, I love to tell them, no, I don't wish upon anybody to become vegan. However, what being vegan has allowed me to do is so much more. I mean, besides the fact that it helps you sleep better, you're more clear, you have more clarity. It's a nightmare to talk about with people because they're more, trying to figure out where we can eat, and I'm more trying to figure out where we can eat for them. But what it really did for me was the idea behind being vegan is that for especially with cystic diseases, is that it's easier to break down vegan foods, right? It's plants, so it's a lot easier. And what we saw in the past 18 months while I've been a patient with Dr. Rastogi is instrumental results. I mean, mind-blowing results, actually, especially from my previous test that was just on about a week ago. I started way down here with my GFR in the early, beginning 30s. About 18 months later, I'm at a GFR of 54. And the question to me at that point became, how do you get from 30 to 54? I made the choice to make these instrumental changes that have made a huge impact in my life. Going vegan, not drinking for about 18 months, working out once a day instead of working out 3 times a day like I was doing in quarantine, which actually was becoming more of a detriment to my life than it was allowing me to push forward and be successful and flourish. And just being a lot happier. I changed my scenery. I moved to San Diego. I started a new job, new life out there. And now the journey is so much different for me. It's empowering, right? It's allowed me not only to be on stage here and get to share the stage with my parents, which I never thought would ever happen, but it's allowed me to not only share, but also empower others to use their voice, to bring up their concerns, to be at the forefront of their own lives, to ask the right questions. Patient advocacy, there isn't enough of it. And that's one thing that as I stand on this stage today that I want to see more of. We always are going to need more of clinical research. We're always going to need more of psychologists and clinical researchers and doctors. But the one thing that I don't see enough of, and even as a social worker, is patient advocacy and patient support. It was this Natera that this was the first time I've ever heard what a genetic counselor was. The folks who call you after you've been diagnosed with something beyond what it was, what the original diagnosis was, and to kind of take you through all the stuff and get you ready for the family planning of what's to come. As a patient advocate and a patient support system, myself, and doing that with my career, you need something beyond that. A genetic counselor has all these patients. They invest all this time to making sure that you have the knowledge. And now you need an advocate to come in and help you through that process. So I stand before you today so grateful that I got the opportunity to share my story with you guys. It's been, I keep saying it's been so overwhelming to be in a room with some of the brightest minds. And then also for the first time getting to share the stage with my parents, which was quite emotional. And, I can't say enough to the doctors on how much time and effort they've put into me and my life. But even more so, I just want to thank you guys Okay. For just all of the support, for all the support. I know that it's been really hard and
Good. You're a good patient.
and challenging, but we're getting
Good
through
daughter.
it, and together we're advocating for others. And so
Yes.
I appreciate you guys all listening to my story and our story. And you know, if there's one last thing that I could say is just be the hope for somebody, because here. Because just a little bit of hope can inspire and can help somebody smile again. So thank you all for being that hope for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rastogi, for
Thank
everything.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Whoa, what a powerful story. Just a couple of comments I want to make. I've never heard Robert speak so much. We call him the first few visits that I had with Alix, video visits, I could only see a hand. So that's great. Thank you. And so just a couple of points that I want to bring out from Alix's story. One of the importance of testing, right? Getting the right diagnosis. She has what we call HNF1, hepatic nuclear factor 1 beta mutation, and that affects organs besides the kidneys, whether it be predisposing diabetes, gout, liver issues, anatomical problems. And that's where I think the role of a nephrologist becomes key. It's not just taking care of the kidneys, but also making the right referrals. And I think we did that right away. And I think we should not miss that point. We know about ADPKD. They can have brain aneurysms. They can have liver. We know about L-port, eyes and ears. But there are other genetic diseases that you can diagnose and make the right referrals to make it smoother. So that's one part that I think is very powerful and very important. But the second part is the patient and their family themselves. And Alix ran with she was eager, she was hungry. She's a social worker. She believes in mental health, and she did everything that she was asked to do. And her kidney function has improved significantly. She still has a mutation. The best we can do is to slow down. We don't have any drug that treats this mutation, but she's doing everything that she can. And she's an inspiration to all of us. And I'm sure all of us had tears in their eyes when they heard her story. So I want to thank Alix. I want to thank her parents for being here and sharing their story. So thank you very much.